Ahoy ahoy to all you smooth sailors out there, and welcome aboard the DeckTales podcast. I'm your host and captain, Sammy Catlin, and this is the show where we set sail into the captivating world of ship life. Most of the time, delving into the best and worst experiences of the incredible crew members who called the open sea their workplace, but I'm open to the odd exception as well. Whether we're navigating stunning destinations to weathering unexpected storms, our guests all have stories to tell that will make you laugh, gasp, and maybe even shed an unexpected tear. So if you're a seasoned cruiser eagerly awaiting your next embarkation, or just curious as to what goes on at sea, DeckTales is your boarding pass to a world of nautical narratives. My guest today is Mr. Kev Orkian. A long-standing comedic veteran, Kev manages multiple entertainment companies, is now the CEO of Jongleurs comedy clubs, and somehow managed to find the time to talk to me about a few of his experiences over the past 20 years. This was a really funny conversation and I had to edit out a lot of laughter, as sometimes it was all a bit too much. So let's anchor up and have a little listen. Kev! How are you, Kev?
How you doing, son?
It's good to see you, man. It's been a long time, hasn't it?
Well, it's been a few years, hasn't it?
A few. And you don't look very different, to be honest with you.
Oh, shut up. You're lying.
No, come on. Be fair. I was like, what? I was very wet when you first met me.
Wet in what regards?
Green, new, fresh, you know.
All right. If you wanna make yourself out to be that young stud that just came up the ranks, while old men like me come onto your podcast, come onto your show, and actually feel old now talking to you. If that's what you want to do, Sam, no. You do it.
To be honest with you, I'm still playing with the format. I haven't thought about what sort of character I'm trying to position myself as.
You've got to position yourself as a pro, really.
Yeah, I'm trying my best. I've written 2 books, and without going off on the big old tangent about it, I'm struggling to get the second one published at the moment because it's a bit of an expose, to be honest with you.
About what?
About the cruise ship industry. So,
well done. All right.
Yeah, so it's a bit like a bittersweet thing because I wrote the first one, seems like smooth sailing, as an exercise of just creative writing, and kind of it was a bit like my elevator pitch was the in-betweeners at sea.
Oh, okay.
And I wrote that kind of prose, very self-depreciating young guy at sea. It was my first contract with Thomson's. That's the whole basis of that book.
Yeah.
And I wrote a whole.
Is that where we met?
Yes, exactly. 2006.
We did, didn't we? Yeah, we met at Thomson's. Yeah,
Thomson's, and I did 4 years in the industry back between 2006 2010. It was a period of change for social media, smartphones, all of that. So coming back kind of felt like a huge transition had occurred whilst I'd been stuck in this bubble at sea, traveling and experiencing everything that's been going on. So fast forward many years and other jobs, failures and life and stuff, I decided to go back and revisit those happy times and wrote Seems Like Smooth Sailing. That came out the day we went into lockdown, which was the first time you couldn't book to go on a cruise since pre-World War II. And even if you wanted to, because of COVID, no one wanted to. So I was like, okay,
of course.
Food for thought. How is this industry going to bounce back? How is it treating the crew? How is it doing lots of things? How has it got to this point as well? Because its evolution has gone like it's grown on exponential rate over the years. So I wrote a second book, which was a continuation of the first, but it's going through the history, the evolution, the innovations, the pollution stats, and it's called You Cruise, You Lose.
I love that.
But it's a fuller pace. It's it's trying to do like a compendium on the whole industry,
right?
But trying to be objective, and at the same time try to raise awareness. But in terms of this is the most fun part of it because I actually get to connect with people that I've long since lost touch with, and I get to hear some of the funny stories that I never heard. Because I love storytelling and story sharing, and especially from the sea, where it's sort of like Vegas, what happens at sea stays at sea, unless, of course, you come on DeckTales. First thing I've noticed is We've got the same chair. Is that a swivel or is that a standstill? Oh, you've gone for the swivel. See, I don't trust myself.
Don't you?
I won't sit still. And plus I'm recording episodes. If I'm swiveling and swerving all over the place, it's a nightmare. But the studio you mentioned, you're doing something?
Yep. Yep. It's all going ahead. Basically, it's all coming together. It's a lot of work. But once we get the ball rolling and get it all sorted, it's actually a really good concept to get creatives to come here to the building to start really working with us on, producing some incredible content. So it's all coming together, really.
That sounds amazing. What kind of content are you looking to produce alongside the documentary?
All kinds, TV, film, podcasts, plays, musicals, operas, pantomimes, comedy shows, the full works, mate.
Oh, that sounds amazing. So you've been, for the people that don't know you, a guest performer or a comedian. We should start with that as your main title. You're a comedian, first and foremost. And I remember you coming on in 2006, and your bit was that you were a stowaway, an immigrant who'd smuggled himself on board. And there was a poster of a performer on the show lounge doors that was somebody else. And then at the last minute, you turned up. Is that a good recollection?
Well, yeah. So that's kind of still what I do. The difference is the act has developed a lot since 2006. So I do a lot of brand new material, a lot of new stuff, a lot of, I bring as much current information to my act as possible and blah, blah, blah. But the character core is still very much the I come from Armenia, and I come on this ship and I'm a stowaway, and it's very nice to be here. I want to go to Southampton, but the captain, he doesn't know where that is. And I go into my act, and it's basically how it all comes together.
I loved it. There was nobody else that did an act like that, and it's still one of the acts that, of all the comedians and people that we had on board, that rings in my mind probably the loudest, because it brought the house down. It was a fantastic act. Do you still do you still do ships quite a lot then, or is it more land based?
Yeah, because of everything I do here, all the projects I've got, we're currently looking. I think at the moment we've got something stupid like, I don't know, about 200-300 shows that we're producing at the moment. So it's just non-stop, Sam. So I have a team. I have 6 people that work for me. I'm bringing in another 2 now. So everyone comes in together. We all work together. We have Jongleurs, we have British pantomimes, we have Howling Entertainment, Howling Comedy Club, and then we got the Academy, which is all the workshops. So we've got a lot on. But it all kind of develops in this place, in this office in Hertfordshire, in Hoddesdon. So yeah, we kind of do what we do. And then when I go away, and I'm going away a lot this year, so I'm floating. I'm always floating around. I'm always doing that. But then I'm in the office, kind of, working the offices, working all the studio, working this way. So it is a tough time, but it's a very enjoyable time too.
It's good to be busy, and it's nice to have a team. For goodness sake, I've done everything myself. I'd kill for a team. The best I've got is I can get people on Fiverr to do a little bit of freelance, or I'll consult a YouTube video to find out how to do something. It is my colleague. I'm a handy man, but yeah, YouTube gives me.
Hold on, what's that? That you can't be doing that with a handyman. That doesn't make sense. You either say I'm a handyman. You don't go I'm a handyman.
No, I am a handyman. But I've not got a trade, so I'm not like a qualified electrician, plumber. I'm none of those things. There you go. You're busy with 300 flipping shows. I'm just trying to do one, and that's stressful enough. I'm dying to get out and about and rejoin society.
Well, you say that, but we've got Brian Connolly, Christopher Biggins, Bobby Davro. We've got 52 different comedy clubs this month alone. We've got 7 pantomimes going out on the P&O ships. We've got a national tour going out around the UK with our other British pantomime. We've got Howling Comedy Club now starting back up again in 2 different venues. We've got about 15 corporates, and all that is happening in just this month. So, and on top of all that, I'm also going to Armenia to film a documentary about Armenia.
I thought you'd already done that, to be honest. I remember seeing something
I've
about
done
it.
two.
Oh, this will be the second.
Third.
Oh, sorry. I just can't keep up with you, Kev. I mean, just trading in your dust, mate.
Not at all. It was basically a documentary idea we came up with, simply on the basis that it was more about educating the audiences about who we are as a nation, who we are as people, and blah blah blah. So when we started the documentary concept, we were very much like, we really want to kind of do this, and we want to get the ball rolling, and we want to kind of make sure that people understand, because obviously we're still being very targeted with different kind of bits and bobs and whatever. I'm also going to South Africa, and I'm also going to Dubai to launch all these new products that we've got. Plus the fact that today we just won Comedy Brand of the Year. So we with part of the prestigious awards. So we've just won that as well. So do you know what, bruv? It's manic.
What's the comedy brand? Or is it comedy brand?
Jongleurs.
Oh, you're Jongleurs. I can't keep up. What is the scope of your cruise ship endeavors, like in terms of from year one to present day? We're talking how many years?
20 years, over 600 cruises.
Oh, wow. So you've got like a running tally.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it started the first year, at least the first 5-6 years, I was doing minimum 30 cruises a year.
Yeah. And you going on for the week.
And then it started dying down. I started going into, I don't know, 8 to 10 cruises, 15 cruises. Then it went down to 5 to 8. And now I think it's probably about 5 a year, 6 a year, maybe.
Oh, wow. So you've done 600 cruises? You're keeping that count going as you're going?
Trying. I honestly don't know how many I've done. I'll be honest with you.
You've lost count.
But I enjoy them. I enjoy them, and they're great fun. And I have a really good time with the audiences. And they still love it. I still try and bring in the controversial aspect to it, as well as the comedic aspect to it. So I do a lot with that as well. But it gets the crowd going. It's a really good fun time. And I also pick up on all the stuff that goes on the ship, whether it's we're not coming into dock or this or that or whatever. I remember one of the ships that I was on, we didn't stop at 3 destinations we didn't stop at because the seas were too rough. So because we didn't stop, I then did another show, an extra show, and I just walked on stage and I said, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Just to let you know, this ship's been taken over by pirates. We are going to Afghanistan. No one is going home, and I'm now going to teach you the national anthem of Afghanistan." And I got the entire audience to sing "We Love You, Afghanistan," and we did this whole thing. It was so much fun. I mean, I laughed till I cried. They laughed till they cried. It was great. And I said, "And the mountain you saw today, which was Gibraltar Rock," I said, "the mountain you saw today was the mountain of Ararat. We are heading to Afghanistan." And it just brought the house down. It was great fun.
That's what I was going to ask you, is that you obviously doing ship comedy or having an audience that is based with you for the entirety. What are the biggest differences between doing that and being with an audience that just comes in for a night on land?
The difference is sometimes the audiences at sea,
they're more captive.
They're captive, but they can be very judgmental as well, because they haven't paid to see you. They've paid to be on a cruise to see what entertainment there is. So when you're on the ship, they're very much like, "Go on then, make us laugh."
Yeah.
Whereas on land, to a certain degree, there is the choice of actually going, "Oh, I don't want to go to that tonight." I don't really enjoy those three. That's the kind of comedy.
That's the big difference. Kind of
mentality. Yeah, there is that mentality.
They all turn into Simon Cowell when they're on the cruise.
A lot of them are wonderful. A lot of them are great. I've had maybe the odd derogatory comment in the last, 20 years. I've had one woman who walked up to me and went, "Well, you're not really Charles Aznavour, are you?" I said, "No, we're both Armenian, and he's a singer and I'm a pianist. But okay, thanks for the." And she was a bit rude. And then another one came up to me and said she thought I was racist for playing an Armenian. I said, "But I am Armenian." And she said, "No, you're not." I said, "Now who's the racist?"
Do you know that there's a play in the West End at the moment, or soon to be, called Slave Play? Nope. And it's got Kit Harington in it from the Game of Thrones series. And the
Right.
producers of that have basically decided that they want to do a blackout night or here or there over the 13-week run.
Yeah, so this is something that's been becoming more popular. I don't personally get it. I find the whole thing actually really rude and disgusting. That I don't know. There was one theatre coming in that said they wanted all blacks to come and watch the show. There was another one, but then when you say we want an all whites show, that becomes racist. Or if we want an all ethnicity show where it's just foreigners and no real British people, I mean, I don't get all that. I think you're discriminating. You're pushing people away. And I also think that, you know, anything that we talk about that discriminates one group of people from another, then that shouldn't be encouraged. You know, everything we run here, whether it's British pantomimes, jongleurs, howling entertainment, it's all inclusive. It's an inclusivity package. I don't care if you're old, you're young. I don't care if you're foreign or if you're white or black or whatever you are. I don't care what sexuality you are. I don't care what religion you are. If you want to come and watch a comedy, if you want to enjoy a traditional panto, we're your people. And we don't discriminate anyone. But there are people out there who want to do it because they want the publicity from the outside, from the media saying, oh, this is only an all black audience show, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's not really, is it? Because you did a one night with black audiences only. And then the rest of the year, you're doing it all mixed. But you just wanted that little bit of advertising and you got it.
Yeah. We're all in the same boat here on DeckTales, in the same boat. You know, we're all one family when we're on the ship. No one's discriminated against really when we're at sea because we can't go anywhere.
That's right.
Aww. In the 20 years or so of being on cruise ships, have you ever experienced a disaster at sea, or like have you had a scary holy, like we might need to board the lifeboats moment?
Oh God, yeah. Not boarding a lifeboat moment, however, but there's been a few. Memorable. I suppose the most basic one that I experienced on the Saga cruise was in Oman, and we were on the ship. And
you ran out of wheelchairs.
No, thank God. But and it is a lot of people like that there. You know, some of them have best friends called God. But it was one of those ones where we were in Oman and I was sitting outside in top deck, just having a bit of a chill out, having a drink. And I was relatively young at the time. I think I was about 29, 30 at the time. And I'd been sitting out there. I'd been I'd enjoyed my first show. I'd already done and dusted it. So I was on the ship and I'm just relaxing, sunbathing. And this guy walked past, this waiter. And I said to him, excuse me, can I put in an order? And he just walked past and he looked at me and walked past. So I thought, well, that was a bit rude. So then he walked past again and I said, excuse me, can I just have it? And then he walked past again and I thought, bloody hell, I mean, is he deaf? So anyway, the third time he walked past, I just put my hand up and I waved to him and he just looked and shrugged. So I thought, what the hell is going on here? So about 5-10 minutes later, the cruise director walked past and I said to her, what's going on? I said, this guy keeps walking past me. He's ignored me 3 times. All I want is a Diet Coke. I said, and I can't seem to get, attention. I can't get his attention. And she said, just come with me for a second. So I walked up and we went to a little quiet corner. And she said to me, she said, Kev, look, just to give you the heads up, she said, there is 3 guys on here who are dressed up as waiters, but they're not waiters. And I said, what are they? And she said, they're Gurkhas. She said, because we've got the potential of being attacked by pirates here in the Oman Sea. So she goes, under those jackets, they've got rifles and guns and machine guns or whatever, and they're here to protect us. They're not here to serve us. And I thought, so that kind of freaked me out slightly. That was one of the first times. Yeah. One of the first times that I was like, oh my God, that's never happened. I've never experienced that. After that, I actually walked past him and I actually fist bombed him and he was like, hey, look. And that was it because he knew I knew after that. So that was one. Okay. But the scariest...
what year was that? Sorry, just a bit.
Oh God, that would have been 20 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
That would have been 20 years ago.
They don't allow them to have guns, do they, these days?
They do on the ships. Though. No, they still do. They still do.
I was always under the impression that Gurkhas were employed across the board in the cruise ship industry as security guards because they don't need weapons. They can kill guys with their bare hands.
These guys had guns.
These guys had guns. Well, when you've got a threat of pirates, yeah, you need something because there was an incident on a ship in the Seychelles. I think it was an MSC ship, and pirates tried to board and they didn't have guns. So they were using flare guns. The guests and the security
Wow.
guards were throwing deck chairs, whatever they could to keep these pirates at
Wow.
bay. So the threat was, well,
Non-existent.
it was a non-existent threat. It didn't actually happen, but they'd taken
No.
precautions. And did you have a drink with them in the crew bar later?
No.
I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll take that Diet Coke now, please, mate.
It was that, but I went and got my own.
Yeah, yeah.
The most frightening was on P&O, and I got on with three other entertainers, and I was relatively brand new to the ships. I think this would have been my third time on P&O. And I was upstairs in the main kind of dining area, having buffet food and whatever. And I sat there with two other comedians, and we were just having a chat and whatever. And instantly, I saw the moon from the front of the deck go from here to here to here to here to here. So I thought, wow, we've hit some heavy waters. And immediately a voice came over the tannoy saying, ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Please, can everyone return back to their cabins immediately? And once you're in your cabins, can you make sure that you're not using any of your cupboards or drawers or wardrobe? Be careful because doors will fly open and this and that. But we need everyone to return back to their cabins immediately. So you saw everyone go back and go back and go back, and everyone was like, blah, blah, blah. And then he announced, he said, everyone, crew, please go to the dining facility upstairs and blah, blah, blah. So obviously all the crew were up there with me and the other comedians. And I'm still there eating. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the ship is going up and down like this, but I'm still eating away and whatever. And the first officer came in and he said, everyone, please listen to the captain. So they took the tannoy just to the dining area so that all the crew were there. They said, right, everyone get to your muster stations immediately. If anyone needs help, please do this and blah, blah, blah. And it was an emergency. Basically, it was an emergency call. And I was like, what are we doing? And he said, everyone's got to get to their muster stations. This is happening, that's happening, and whatever, and blah, blah, blah. So everyone disperses within minutes. And everyone's gone to the staircases, the muster stations, the this and that, whatever. And I was like, well, what do we do? You know, we're the entertainment. We're not crew. So what do we do? And they were like, you need to lend a hand if anyone's got an issue and this and that, whatever. But your best place to stick around will be in this dining area because it's kind of neutral to the entire ship. So it's a better place to stay than being right at the back or right at the front. So I don't think we were there more than about 4 minutes. And a wave hit the ship from the side. And as it hit from the side, the entire ship started doing that towards the sea. And we hit it so hard that we were literally, our faces were leaning against the window like that because the ship went really, really to the side. It was ridiculous. And it went really, really close to the sea. And then it very slowly came back up again. And I have to tell you, I thought I saw Jesus twice.
Wow, thank God for those ballast tanks, eh? Here's me thinking of you in some capacity, like, you know, those violinists on Titanic. There's Kev Orkian doing a 5-minute set on his piano, just trying to keep the mood light.
Well, there was a piano up there. I've got to be honest with you, Sam. There was a piano up there, but I think it was the last thing they wanted to hear at that moment. You know, we are sailing, we are gonna drown.
So there was no call to man the lifeboats. That didn't go that far. You went, you know, as
No, it didn't. We were very lucky. It didn't actually, and we were very lucky. The captain was brilliant. He turned the ship towards the actual waves and whatever, and we did all right. But it was a scary time. It lasted about 4 hours, but it was that one moment with the ship doing that you thought to yourself, what is going to happen? All the tables, everything went slam into the windows. Actually, they broke I think a couple of windows down in the dining. Upstairs we were okay, but downstairs in the dining area, the exclusive dining area, there was a few windows that cracked and chipped and whatever, but we were all okay. And these things happen, and that was one of the experiences we had. So there you go. You've gone from the mild to the extreme.
That's the extreme. Yeah. Was the thoughts of Poseidon adventure coming through your mind at any point?
No, but the thoughts of actually, you know, I've got to swim in cold water did come through, because I thought there's no way anyone's going to survive this. Hypothermia is going to kick in. We're all going to freeze. And I'm going to do the next Leonardo DiCaprio scene with, with me drowning in the water. So that did cross my mind a couple of times. I've got to be, but then food for my act, I actually walked on stage, and my entire act was about, the fact that this is something that happens to me regularly when I'm in a lifeboat trying to get onto a ship. So it really worked well.
As your character.
As the character.
Brilliant. Were you going around sizing up and trying to section off this is my door just in case we go down?
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. But it was all good. I was very lucky. And do you know what? These officers on the ship, the captain, the officers, whatever, what they do is brilliant. They literally are training themselves on a daily basis with different things, whether it's a fire, whether it's a flood, whether it's this, whether it's that. They're always doing it. But it's brilliant.
Bomb threat as well.
I've never had that. I have had on numerous occasions, more than I care to actually admit to. I've had what they call them, air ambulances, that have come to the ship and actually taken people off the ship.
Yeah. It's the quickest and best way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So where did it? Well, just to go back, sorry, where was the incident on the listing ship? Where was that about?
That was the North Sea.
Oh, so it was very cold.
That was towards Iceland.
Yeah, he ain't staying alive in those waters long.
Well, it's cold water, mate.
Yeah.
It's cold water. So, whereas if we were in the Barbados and the ship, toppled, you'd be like, that's all right. Just have a quick swim back to the shore. Do you know what I mean? Because it's nice and warm. The waters are great. Seychelles, on the other hand, you probably want to jump into the water. But, it's Seychelles water is insane. It's like bath water. It's amazing.
I know. I got the chance to go there once. And my old flatmate, he's living out there for a year now.
What? That's amazing. Yeah, I go there, or I used to go there regularly, at least 4, maybe 5 times a year to perform for the Saudi Prince. He owns quite a bit of the land out there, and he owns a few of the hotels. So I always go out there and entertain, which is wonderful, because it's such a nice experience. Oh,
it's amazing, but it's a little bit sad. Do you know they've got quite a big heroin problem over there?
Yeah. They've got their drug issues out there are really bad, really bad.
It's not something that's mostly associated by the tourist board, obviously, because they go there for the beautiful beaches and the wonderful water. But because it's such an expensive place to live, most of the place or the people there that live there, they're in poverty. They struggle with a lot of work and stuff. But
it's amazing. You can go from the airport where you've got taxis that are literally from 1972, and then you cross certain sections of the island, and suddenly you're literally looking at a tropical hotel with lobsters for breakfast, and people sitting around with hold on, here you go, with a nice cigar like that and their wine, and you're thinking to yourself, hold on a minute, 10 minutes down the road that way they were sitting on the streets selling grapes to people because they didn't have enough money to feed their families, and yet 5 minutes up the road it's a whole different ball game.
Well, when I went there, I was with do you know Silver Sea?
Very well. I worked for Silver Sea many times.
I only did a short 3.5 months or so, but
doing what?
Hosting game shows and quizzes. Well, actually, the entertainment on board their ships is quite it's quite minimal. They had us do things like the activities, the games. We didn't really have a game show. We did like quizzes and golf putting and that sort of stuff. But the thing I enjoyed doing the most was I got to do a lot of tours as a tour escort. So I'd go on all these excursions with people. So that was wonderful. It was very, what's the word? Airbrushed. They got the best of where we went to, because it's an expensive line to go on as a guest.
Silver Sea's 6-star.
Yeah, 6-star.
You've just made me think I want to pretend I'm at the Seychelles now. So I just thought I'd like the cigar. It's
the I'd say top end of cruising, isn't it?
Totally. Most P&O is great. Royal Caribbean, great. MSC, great. Carnival, great. Cunard, classy, great. Every single ship has its own thing. But when you look at Silversea, they have always had that. It's not just 6-star, but it's a whole different experience. And you're right, the entertainment is minimal, but it's quality. I mean, all the ships are quality, but they seem to churn it out differently.
Well, so rather than having cabaret, well, we did have cabaret. We had a guy who came on. He was many years on the West End as the Phantom of the Opera. We had incredible musicians, like instrumentalists performing. Didn't really have many comedians as such.
I went on there.
I
say quite a few times, probably about 5 times. And every time they put me into a balcony cabin, they looked after me. I had room service. I had a butler. It was amazing. And then you go from that to a different ship, which I'm not going to name. And suddenly you're in the bottom of the deck. I kid you not, where they're dropping anchor into the water and your entire cabin is moving that much. The television fell off the shelf.
Yeah. When you say about it's a completely different experience, I remember the first time I got to eat in the restaurant on board, and it's like they've got vodka encased in an ice sculpture. They've got waiters that come to the table, and if you look like you're struggling to read your your menu, whatever, then a waiter will come by with a wooden, beautifully carved box, and he opens it, and it's like full of glasses, and it's like, well, what is your prescription? Here, oh yes, these are fine. Oh, now I can read. They have thought of everything, and
yeah, it's brilliant.
I really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, it was short-lived because the hotel director and I didn't see eye to eye. But
well, there you go. There you go. Welcome to the world of power struggling. Yeah. It's something that really gets on my nerves. People just, I don't know. People get threatened. I think people would be threatened by you, Sam, because you're likable, you talk, you get on with people, you do what you do. And some people just find that a threat. They do.
I won't say his name, but he was an Irish fella. And I think he just didn't, I think he took assumptions about my character based on the fact that my only previous companies were really Thompson's and Travel Scope, who had long gone, and that I was from Essex. So he thought I was a bit too common for your, 6-star clientele. And I was dismissed over basically being too informal, but no one complained. If anything, some of the guests were, if anything, 1 or 2 of the guests were a little bit too informal with myself. One suggested or hinted at the idea of taking me back to his cabin, shall we say?
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
A 70-year-old man from Chicago who used to work on Broadway, and he was as...
I think I had the same man, and I went back to his cabin. So just to give you the heads up, I went back to his cabin. We had a chit chat, and it didn't work out. I've got to be honest with you, because I was hoping he was going to offer me the lead role in Fiddle on the Roof.
Well, so you didn't take it, or is that how you're able to afford this extension you're having built?
Well. No, I'll be honest with you. I did have an experience very similar to yours, where this guy, he was in his 70s, and he was very much, hoping for something to happen. And it was really quite uncomfortable because I was sitting there now thinking about it. That would be literally a case for prison. But he was very much, flirty and this and that, whatever. And then he started stroking my back. But he did it in such a subtle way. I didn't look at it as an attempt to be rude or to be sexual with me. I just thought he was so nice. And I was young at the time. I was quite naive. And then he put his hand on my leg and pushed his hand right towards my groin. And I was like, hold on a minute. And then I realized this was beyond being kind. And actually, when the person we were talking to got up to leave, it was just me and him left there. I literally turned around to him in a very polite manner. And I said, if you ever touch me again in any context, I said, I will break your neck. And I said, and you won't see the end of this cruise. And he removed his hand, which was not on me, but it was behind me on the chair. He removed it. And then he said, right, I've got to go back to my cabin because it's late now. And it was only like 9 o'clock in the evening. So he left. And And that was my only experience with him. So yeah, it was very uncomfortable. But that happens not just towards entertainers, but that happens whether it's a homosexual, a heterosexual, or whatever. That happens all the time.
Have you ever had a show from hell, like a really god awful crowd, or there's been a technical failure? Yeah, like one of the ones where you've had just like a relentless amount of hecklers as well. You've had it all, but like, there any of those that sort of really stand out to you, Kev?
Yes, there was one. I'll never forget. It was from Southampton to Hamburg, and I boarded in Southampton, and the cruise director said, "Kev, you're on tomorrow night." He said, "While we're at sea." I said, "No problem." So 8 o'clock, full house, chock-a-block, and please welcome on stage all the way from Armenia. Doesn't speak very good English, Kev Orkian. So I walked on stage and I said, good evening. Hello, how are you? And I started my act. And not a titter from the audience. And every joke missed, every single one. And for about a good 8 minutes, it was silence, pure silence. Then I got on the piano and I played my first track, and a massive ovation. And I was like, what is going on? So I then did a couple more gags, nothing again. Then I sat on the piano and I did another piece, massive ovation, screams and shouts and cheers. I was like, wow. So anyway, I did my 45 minutes. I then walked off stage. And as soon as I walked into the auditorium to go up to the bar to go and grab my first alcoholic drink, because I'd struggled so hard to make them laugh, one of the punters came up to me and said, excuse me, he said, "I thought your show was fantastic." And I said, well, with all due respect, I said, not one person laughed in my show. And I struggled to even think that was a good show. I said, why did you think it was a good show? He said, oh, good God. He said, your jokes, we didn't get any of them. He said, we're all German.
So yeah, literally the wrong demographic for, well, and they're like famously known for having a little bit of a faulty sense of humor.
Totally. It's the sense of humor where you go, right, how do I get around this? And they do it for me every time. They put me on the ships with the Germans because they know that now I know how to handle those German ships and what to say and do. That's going to give me ammunition to come out of it on the other side much better.
But is there any other, well, you said that you've done Silver Sea, you've done Carnival, and those are the two ends of the spectrum for cruising, 6-star. And somebody else I spoke to said that Carnival is like the Walmart of the sea, which I get.
Well, it can be, but then most ships can be. It does depend. You've got to start at the top. Start with the captain, start with the cruise director. And with all due respect, most captains don't relatively mix with the passengers. They don't. They very much keep themselves to themselves. Some of them are very serious. Others are really good fun. So everyone's got their own kind of demographic of what they do. I think it comes down to, personally, the cruise director and the entertainment, because there's two things most passengers will want from a ship when they go on a ship. First one's good food. Second one's great entertainment. When you've got those two in the best context possible, then actually everything else falls into place. The one thing that I think cruise ships are still making a massive mistake on, and something that we are doing for the cruises now, is productions. Because some ships are literally churning out the same show 5 years in a row. And passengers are repeat passengers. Most people will go on one cruise a year and will stick to the same ship because they know it, because it's familiarity. And when you go on that ship and you see the same 5 shows over the period of 2 weeks, you kind of say to yourself, these were good, but now I know what I'm expecting. Then you go on again and you think, well, I know that the restaurant's here, the toilets are here, the gym is here and whatnot. But hopefully the shows are different. Hopefully the food is different. There's different things they're doing, different theme food and whatever. Unfortunately, a lot of ships, they, one, with funding, but two, with the fact that they find it comfortable not to expand or not to create new opportunities, unfortunately gives the passenger false hope that if they come on again, they will experience something different. The ship, they want it to be the same. They always do. You wouldn't go to an Elton John concert and expect him to do songs that you've never heard before.
I was just about to make that point about what I was going to think of, like the Rolling Stones and stuff. You know, you want to hear the classics. So in that regard, how many times or how many different shows over the years have you performed or created?
18.
18. Wow, you had that number like that. So completely different shows, or like, bits and parts kind of, well, I don't know. It's a hard one to quantify, I guess.
Yeah, it is, because when you're on a ship, the experiences and what happens always changes. And when you go on a ship, you do what works. So I go on and I do Elton John, the same song that I do every time. I do a few other routines, and they all go down really, really well. But then you create routines. Like when I said we went to 3 ports and we didn't stop, and I created this whole new routine and blah, blah, blah about Afghanistan and this other. All that is about thinking on your feet and trying to do something that relates to the audience that were there at the time. So I think very much when you repeat the same show again and again and again and again and again, people will go, oh, I've seen him, I won't bother. The other thing with comedians, unfortunately, is a lot of comedians do material that not everyone enjoys. Now, that's subjective, with all due respect.
Yeah. As is all art.
As is all art. But when a comedian comes out and he does material that insults, subjects, patronizes an audience in a way that would wind up anyone who was watching it, then I think you get to a level where you become, I suppose, uncomfortable to watch. And a lot of passengers, because they've paid for their cruise, do not need to sit through an entire show if they don't enjoy you.
Of course.
And that's literally the secret and it's the same with food. I know passengers, categorically know passengers who are repeat passengers, who will walk onto a ship and bring their own food and ask the captain to cook, ask the chef to cook it.
Oh, wow. But going back just quickly, there are some people I worked with, and it was part of their act to be rude, to put the guests down. And because it was their character, they got away with it. As an example, you wouldn't have someone like Jack Whitehall doing Jack D material and vice versa, because it just wouldn't work.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
For example, had I been the kind of person, 19, 20 years of age, to be talking down to my elders, they wouldn't have stood for it. So I would play up to the cheeky, charming, wet behind the ears, missing my mum terribly kind of kid. And that worked for a spell. But I would not talk down to people. You've got to know how you're being perceived.
Yeah, I think you're right. But also, you've got to pick up on the energy in the room.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's not just comedians, by the way. That's singers. That's performers, instrumentalists. You've got to know your audience. End of.
Over the years, Kev, do you ever go on excursions? And if so, have you had any excursions from hell or any particularly nice ones that you can share with us?
Yeah, I had a wonderful excursion that ended up being slightly nightmarish. It was in so it's in Southern America, and it was in I can't actually remember the country we went to. It was on Saga, and we basically ended up to zip line across the gorillas in this massive jungle. So we were so excited about it, and we were like, okay, what we're going to do and blah, blah, blah. And it was basically the entertainment team who booked the excursion, and we ended up going across and going up this hill, this mountain as such. And when we got to the top, you zip lined all the way down, and it was a wonderful experience over the gorillas, then through the jungle, then past the sloths, and this and that. It was amazing. And when we got to the top, the guy said there are two species of poisonous frog that you basically don't touch, and if they jump on you, just let me know. So we were like, okay, and we pretty much got ourselves wound up a bit. We got to the top, and one of the girls in our company completely had a meltdown. She put the zip fasten and everything. She got herself all worked up, and then she started shaking like a leaf. It was like as if she was sitting on a washing machine, right? While it was speed tumbling. You know, she was like like this, and we were like, oh my god, oh my god. Anyway, she did it, but she was really, really worried. So while we're at the top, she's in front of me. She's now getting hooked up, ready to do this zip line, and I'm behind her, and she's got herself into such a panic that they're actually worried about sending her on the zip line. So I was like, look, you're going to be okay. Just don't worry about it and blah, blah, blah. I managed to calm her down. And then as she got calm, she looked at me as if to say, I really don't want to be here. And as she looked down, she screamed a scream that I've never heard come out of a human being before. And I was like, what's going on? And then I looked down, and on my Timberlands was a fluorescent red frog, which was the one they were talking about, the poisonous frog. And she looked down, and within seconds, she went. Right? So that was her trigger to go. Right? So she left me with this bloody frog on my shoe. And I turned around to the guy, and I was like, mate, look that. So he went, yeah, don't worry. He said, I'll sort it out. He got a piece of wood, and he prodded the back of its backside. It was so small as well. It was like that. Prodded the backside, and this thing flew, right? It jumped off my shoe and flew, I would say, a good 20 yards, right? Which is a massive jump for a frog. And it jumped 20 yards. It just flew, and it stuck itself against the tree. And as it stuck itself against the tree, I'd already been hooked up, ready to go. And I literally looked at the tree, and just there, because I hadn't even noticed it, was the biggest sloth who turned around and looked at me as if to say, why me? Do you know what I mean? Like this frog had gone from me to him. And I laughed so hard. Anyway, we did the zip line. Great experience.
Yeah.
It was one of those ones that I would love to do again, but it was incredible. So yes, I have had some weird experiences, and that was definitely one of them.
I bet that tour guide on that excursion kept that in his act. If he ever got people who were a bit nervous and they were taking a bit too much time, he pulled out the fake plastic poisonous frog, and then they hurried on.
Totally, yeah. And I reckon he would have done that, looking into the future. So that definitely was one of them. The other one was the safari when...
oh, amazing.
Yeah, the guy said, our elephants are really shy. There was 3 of them. And he said, they're really shy. They're just over there. And we looked and we could see them. And he said, they never come close to the trucks because he said they're very shy and blah, blah, blah. And this elephant started walking towards us. And I'm like, okay. And got closer and closer and closer to the point, because I was sitting in the front. And it came and it put its trunk into the actual truck. And I was able to stroke it and touch it. And everyone took pictures of it. It was something that had never been done before. The guy said, I've never seen that before. Wow. And then a year later, I was at the same safari park, which we'd gone to in South Africa. And the same elephant came and said hello to me again a year later. And he'd never done it since.
Oh, wow. Elephants really do never forget. So you've got an affinity for elephants, or elephants have got an affinity for Kev Orkian? Which is it?
I don't know, but I love animals. I love the energy they churn out. I love that and whatever. I think it's great. I think it's absolutely great. So yeah, no, that was definitely one of them that I genuinely, it blew my mind.
Well, so you did that excursion with the entertainment team, the Saga. Yeah. So it wasn't like you took a bunch of old guests with you on a zip lining excursion.
You don't go to a zip line with old people, Sam. You go to an old people's home with old people. Yes, you go to a pub. You go to somewhere where they're going to sit down, they're going to drink a coffee and think they've done an excursion. But when it's young people, there's a lot of adventure. One of my favorite places in the world, actually, for adventure and having a good excursion, and if no one's ever done it, you should definitely do it, is in Barbados, and it's the Boatyard. One of the best places I've ever been to.
The Boatyard is what? Banana boats and things.
Yeah. No, they do. They do have banana boats. Yeah, they do have banana boats. They have those jet skis. Jet skis. They have a few of those. They're really good fun. They're really good fun. But the Boatyard is all about getting together, taking all your clothes off, leaving your bikinis or your shorts on, and just having a good time with friends with cocktails. That's what it's all about.
Oh, yeah.
And a cigar. And a cigar.
Always with a cigar, Kev. With the saga cruises, just reminded me actually. I had a client last year, and she was a travel agent, and she said, "You know what? Because we were talking about cruising, when we go through peak booking time for getting guests on the saga cruises, we make a ton of money, and we refer to it as broken hip season."
To be honest with you, that is the case. That is the case. And actually, on some of the ships, I've experienced when I've walked on stage, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kev Orkian, and I've walked in and there's people sleeping.
Oh yeah, but was what? I swear it was you. I don't know if this is true, but I always remember this. Someone told me that they were doing a show. Someone was sleeping in the front row, and they called them out on it, and basically said to their partner, "Excuse me, my dear, could you just nudge your partner awake?" And what was their response?
So she said, "No, leave him. He's sleeping." I said, "No, wake him up." "No, leave him. He's sleeping." I said, "No, wake him up." She went, "No, please leave him alone." I said, "No." Jumped off the stage, was about to slap him on the head, and she said, "No, leave him. He's dead."
Yeah, that was. I was certain it was you that told me that story. It was years ago, but I've still told that story.
He passed away. He passed away, bless him. And the story continued where the sound technician immediately called the paramedics. They turned up, took the body. She went with, of course.
She didn't stay for the rest of the show.
No, she didn't stay. No, no. So she left. I did a concert for the final 35, 40 minutes, whatever it was. I just played the piano. I did a concert instead. I didn't think comedy was appropriate. I then went back to my cabin, and I was sitting in my cabin thinking, "Oh my God, someone died in my show." And at 11:30 p.m., nearly 12 p.m., 12 a.m., I could hear boom, boom, bang, bang, bang outside my cabin. I thought, what the hell's going on? And I opened the cabin door, and they had him on a stretcher. They were taking him. And I was like, "Oh my God, is that the man that died in my show tonight?" "Yeah, he died." I said, "What did he die of?" "Heart attack." I said, "Oh, bless him." I said, "How old was he?" She said, 91. I said, "Oh, God bless him." I said, "You know what? He had good innings. God bless him." And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Where are they taking him now?" She said, "To the mortuary." I said, "Oh, where's that?" "Next door to my cabin."
Literally next door. Wow. From having a balcony to being in the bowels of the ship next to the ice cream parlor.
That's the one.
Yeah.
And that was it. I was like, "Oh my good God."
Wow.
But you know, these things happen. These things happen.
Do you remember any other deaths at sea that you didn't exacerbate?
Yes. Cunard, Queen Elizabeth, 12 people died in 10 days.
Was that from a virus outbreak or?
No, people just died.
Oh, it was just, yeah.
That was it.
Natural causes.
I saw one guy, he got so drunk, he beat his wife up in the bar. And it took 6 security guys to put him down. Wow. He was massive. And they ended up throwing him in prison. And then the following morning at 6 a.m., when everyone else is pretty much still asleep or they're getting up or whatever, they docked early and they took him off the ship, and the police took him away and left his wife on the ship to finish the cruise. And I believe they accompanied her back to her house, and there was a whole issue with that.
Oh, okay. But so the guy who died during your show, was he dead before you started making jokes or during? Do you know that?
It was before I even walked on stage. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you can't say that you killed someone literally in your show. Like
don't start rumors, Sam. Don't start rumors.
But oh yeah, you killed tonight, man. As opposed to bombing. But yeah, he passed away.
No. That was a blessing, God.
You can't have that once, Kev. I'm sure there's somebody out there who has done that, like given somebody a heart attack or something because they were laughing too much.
Possibly. I do know it's probably about half a dozen now, women who have laughed that hard they've weighed themselves.
Oh, well, that's great. Yeah. I mean, she won't like me for saying this. I won't say which one. My niece is a little bit like that because, if you tickle her too much, then she, has a little
My dog's the same.
I'm not comparing the two.
But the thing is, my dog does it without tickling. You see, she is called Happy Wee. Every time she sees me, she becomes so happy she wheezes.
I think you might need to mollycoddle your dog a little bit less, Kev, because then your dog might have some attachment issues with yourself.
Probably.
This isn't the
Probably.
podcast, but yeah, just because whenever you leave, your dog is probably pissing all over the place, I'm guessing. Like,
No,
well,
no,
Rex,
nothing at all. But when I come home, she comes outside now because we've clocked it. So she comes outside, lays on her back, has her happy wee. I tickle her belly, and then we both walk in, and that's it. There's no more carpet stains. There's no more wood stains. It's all gone. She's now 14 years old. She's now in dog years, in her 90s, and she still acts like a puppy.
what is she?
She's a Bichou.
A Bichou. I remember when I came back off of my first contract after 10 months, and my Springer, Susie, she'd forgotten who I was. She's nothing like an elephant in that regard. Because I got to the front door. I got to the front door. I went, Susie! And she looked at me, sneezed, and then she went around me to my mum and dad. And she's like, oh, okay, whatever.
That's nice.
Yeah, thanks very much.
So there's still a letter framed in the bridge on Pianaventura, where a lady came to watch my show, and I obviously come out as the immigrant who doesn't speak very good English. She watched the entire show. She then put in a complaint to the captain to say, how dare you employ immigrants and particularly stowaways on the ship to perform for audiences that have come on paying good money to watch great entertainment. She said, I'm disappointed and blah, blah, blah. I would like another cruise free of charge where you will be supplying proper entertainment and not, immigrants who don't even speak good English. So I've got that letter. Anyway, he's got the letter, sorry. So he's put it up in his bridge. And the best bit is I actually went to see that lady. And I walked up to her and I said, hello, how are you? And she said, well, and she said, I'm disappointed that, you were forced to perform and blah, blah, blah. I said, can I tell you something? And she said, yeah, please go ahead. I said, I don't come from Armenia. She said, oh, where do you come from? I said, from Essex. My name's Orkian. And I just want to let you know, love. And I went and I broke my accent. And she went, oh my God. And it was very, very funny. Very, very funny.
You used to, I remember when you came on board initially, you wouldn't break character in the guest areas until after your first show, or you second. You stayed in character in guest areas the whole time. It was only in the crew bar that you kind of took off the.
Yeah, of course. That's a private area, isn't it? So a private area to go and enjoy and have a laugh with the with everyone else. But yeah, I keep the act 1,000,000%.
When you were asking that Gurkha for a Pepsi, was that as Orkian or was that as the Armenian?
No, that was me as me, because I hadn't, or had I performed? Or maybe I had performed. But the thing is, when you're on a ship and you're very much in a very quiet area, no one's really kind of interacting with you, then, actually a lot of those people on the ship were pretty much, not where I was. So it's okay to then speak without having to put the accent on.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love that complaint. The request to employ people of a certain caliber and not immigrants. So stupid.
It's unbelievable. But anyone will do anything for a free crew.
Oh, they're professional complainers. They exist at sea in their thousands. We would like what was it? Somebody said that we spent more money than we'd have liked on gratuities, so we'd like a reimbursement on the tips that we gave the crew.
That's right.
Or because we didn't win anything in the casino, we would like some money back for all that we've given.
Happens all the time.
We didn't win a bingo, so please can we have a free cruise? Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, totally.
Why people think that they're entitled to things after you've gambled or given away tips? That's I don't understand the logic behind it, Kev, and we never will. But have you ever? Let's go into a darker belly of cruising now. We touched on it earlier, but did you ever see any environmental practices being broken at sea, or even in port?
No.
Never?
No, never, not once. No, not once. Never. No. Okay. Now, I've worked on every single cruise line, bar Disney. I've never done Disney cruises. And I can tell you right now, not one cruise has ever broken protocol on dumping, on anything to do with the ship. If anything, I have seen passengers break protocol.
Oh,
yeah. The worst one I got was a passenger, and I got done for it by the captain, but it was worth it. It was totally, utterly worth it. After my show, I basically went to the toilets, public toilet, behind where the audience sit. And it's a public toilet, and I was in there, and an old boy walked in, and he went straight into the toilet cubicle. And you knew what he was there for. He wasn't there to the number one. He was there to the number two. And he finished, walked out without washing his hands, and he went straight to the door. And the thing was, that week, we had a serious outbreak of D&V. So there was diarrhea everywhere. There was vomiting everywhere. People weren't allowed to do certain things. The staff had to serve you in the decks and this and that, whatever. It was really bad. And he came out of the toilet without washing his hands and went straight to the door. And I said to him, excuse me, I said, you really have to wash your hands. I said, because D&V, and he went to me, I do what I want. He said, don't you effing tell me what to do. So he became really aggressive and rude. And I said to him, how effing dare you think it's okay with your scumbag hands to go and touch the door that 100, 200, 300 people are going to be touching to actually create issues within the ship. And it was, I got done for that. So that was basically it. And I ended up being called by the captain, and I went to the bridge, and I ended up getting a disciplinary for having a go at a passenger for not washing his hands. But the fact remains, when you've got hundreds of people vomiting and having diarrhea on a ship, the last thing you want to be doing is touching a door handle that's been touched by an old boy who's just had a number two and hasn't even bothered to wash his hands. So there you go.
But what does a disciplinary even do? Like, you're not crew, you're not staff. Like,
no, but I represent the ship. So when you represent a cruise line, and this one was particularly a high-end one, actually, it was a Royal Caribbean, it's detrimental. It's detrimental. So it ended up really causing a lot of issues. But that's just one of the examples I can give you.
Do you still cruise with Royal Caribbean, or have you picked
all
up
the
another?
time?
Okay, so that one disciplinary is long time ago, long forgotten, water under the bridge.
No, the captain was on my side. He told me, mate, what you said was absolutely true. But unfortunately, we don't have the right to tell passengers what they can and can't do.
You're a people's champion.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you, Sam. There are so many stories, so many things that have happened on ships. We've seen such incredible performers that have ended up one of the biggest ones for me blew my mind. And I say it blew my mind was when I was on the Royal Caribbean, and I was on one of their greatest ships, the biggest ones. And I think it was the Oasis. And they do a show where these swimmers climb to the top of the ship and then they dive into the swimming pool. And you're thinking to yourself, that's virtually impossible. How does that happen? And this particular one, I'll never forget. We're all there. And I was with my family as well, my kids and my wife. And we were all sitting there watching it. I was performing on the ship, but I managed to get seats to go and watch this performance. And this woman went right to the top. And literally, as she's just about to dive like that, the ship juddered. No problems. This is not a trigger story at all. But she dived. But as she dived and the ship went like that, I can tell you, every single person who was watching that show must have thought the same thing. We are now watching someone who's going to die, because it was that worrying. But she dived off, went straight to the water, and she missed the side of the pool that she was diving into, probably by a foot. And I've got to tell you, I think every single person in that show who watched her must have prayed to God at the same time, hoping she was going to be okay. It was mind-boggling. And these things are getting bigger and bigger because people are demanding for greater performances to be entertained by. And that was one of them.
How big is the
demands
pool?
are bigger.
How big is the pool that these high divers have got to go?
Very small.
And the height?
Christ.
Over 10 meters.
Oh, definitely. At least 30.
Oh, shut up.
No, I'm being serious. She's right at the top. She looks like that when she's about to dive. She looks that big. So when you're watching her, She's that big from up there, that big, and then she suddenly just goes, and then the big sides jump straight down. She's minute when she's up there. How they do it is mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling.
And how deep's the pool? It's like,
I don't know, but I've got to be honest with you. These are professionals that come, they do their job, they do 3 months at a turn, and then they go. And we're talking twice a week, 3 times a week. These guys are jumping off these platforms to entertain audiences.
Yeah, I'd rather host bingo, thank you. That's insane.
Yeah, well, me too. Me too.
Side note, I just had to look that up as I wasn't completely sure as to how credible Kev was being there at that moment. And the Oasis of the Seas diving boards are about 10 meters high. So, sorry, Kev. And also, if you're thinking, well, how does that work? If you jump off of a diving board at that height and the ship is moving, then how do you basically not hit the pool? If the ship is moving at 15 knots, then remember the diver is also moving at 15 knots. So therefore, when he jumps, he doesn't just fall straight down. He falls as though he had an initial velocity of 15 knots. So by the time he reaches the bottom of his jump, he will have moved exactly as far as the pool. So there you go. Anyway, end of side note. With these shows, as you say, they're getting bigger and bigger. Demands are getting greater and greater. How do you keep people entertained when they want bigger, better, brighter, more expensive?
So much going on ships at the moment. They've got, surfing opportunities on Royal Caribbean. Yep. They've got rock climbing on so many of the ships. They've even got, one is the pod that goes around the whole ship, but it's an arm and it goes around the whole ship. The other one is submarine. I think that's on Virgin as well. You go into it docks, of course, in tropical islands, and then you get onto a glass submarine and you can actually go around the ship.
Oh, wow. Because you need that, and this is all as a contingency plan, I suppose, all of these extra things. If you can't dock in the place that you wanted to dock because of bad weather, well, how do you compensate the guests for that? Have incredible facilities on board. Because
yeah, totally. Food, desserts, drinks. I mean, the biggest income that any cruise ship ever makes. And then they don't make much money from cabins. They really don't. No. By the time you have to pay for for everything, the cabins are literally the support system. It's the alcohol consumption that everyone does on the ship that generates income.
Yeah, and the casinos.
Well, yeah, but I mean, there is the chartered cruise for gamblers only, and I have experienced standing there after my show, watching. And this is a true story. I was watching 2 Turkish guys, 1 Russian, 1 Indian, and 1 Texan. It's not a joke. This is true. And they're all hanging around. And around the table of the roulette table, you've got all these chips. And I was looking at the coin chips. I was looking at the Turkish guys, and they had about 100 grand on the table because each chip was £2,000 each one. And they had about 100 grand sitting there. Then you had the Texan. His chips were a lot shorter. I mean, there was as many, and I thought, he's not doing too well. And his one, I think he had roughly around 70 grand. But then the Russian had a very small batch of chips and enough to fill, I think, 2 handfuls like that. So it was just, and I looked at his chips, and each one of his chips were 10 grand. He had roughly around 200 grand sitting at the table, maybe more. And finally, the Indian guy, he also had about £250,000 at the table. And I'm looking, going, oh my God. I mean, look at the money on this table. Yeah. And this Chinese guy walked up who looked a little bit like Jackie Chan. He was such a kind of a lively character. And he walked up, and all he had was a little batch like that on his hands. And I thought, he's not done too well. And he came to the table, and the other guys all knew him. And he said, how's it all going? And blah, blah, blah. And then he took one of his chips, just one of them, and he gave it to the casino guy. He said, can you chop this up into tens, please? And I thought, tens? So I looked at his chip, and each chip was 100 grand. He was holding in his hand 1.3 million.
What ship was this?
One of the American ones.
Oh, wow. I mean, you said about the juddering for the high diver. Imagine a judder at the casino when there's that much money on the table and then all the chips get mixed up.
Totally. But in actual fact, I watched the Chinese guy only put down 50 grand. He lost 50 grand and he walked away. The Turkish guys, they lost everything. And they rebooked another 100 grand's worth of chips. They just did it. The Russian, he was with his mistress or someone who had very large frontal displays. And she was standing there and he very much kept winning, losing and winning and losing. He was average. So was the Texan. But I just watched these guys and I just thought, money is just nothing to these guys. It's like they obviously own billion-pound companies and they just take their share of, profits and they go, yeah, we'll spend $500,000 on the ship. These guys lost everything by the time they got off the ship. It was insane.
Before you go, is there any websites or businesses, charities, anything that you want to promote? Because it's the time for you to do that.
Oh, do you know what? I love doing this, actually, this talk and everything. Do I have anything to promote? Yeah, I do, actually. So in 2020, I bought this brand behind me, Jongleurs, which is one of the oldest, if not the longest running comedy brand in the UK. I bought the brand and I'm basically building it back up to a brand where people can trust and they can come and watch shows and we can support comedians.
Because it went into administration, didn't it?
In 2016, yes.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah. So I bought the brand in 2020. This year, and actually 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago, we won Best Comedy Brand 2024-25. So we're doing something right. We're building it. So come and support Jongleurs. Just go to the website, jongleurs.com. We've got tons of shows happening all around the country. And I'm also putting it out there. We provide pantomimes for the ships, for P&O, but we're trying to open up opportunities, not just for other ships, but if you know any venues in the country that would actually benefit from having a pantomime, a full production, but a pop-up pantomime. Our shows are 55 minutes long, and we do 2 shows where you pay for. The third show you get for free. So a lot of companies, charities, schools are booking the 3 shows because on the third show, they charge out tip money, they get an audience in, and they make profit on that third show. And a lot of the companies are making more than we are, charging what we charge.
Oh,
so they're the 2 shout outs I would do. Amazing.
Well, I love the sound of that, and I hope it all goes well for you, Kev.
Cheers,
off the record, I guess, or maybe I'll keep it in, I don't know. I've always had on my bucket list that I want to be a pantomime villain. So I'm going to keep growing this just in case you're casting for someone like Jafar.
Absolutely. We've got Jack and the Beanstalk going on a national tour this year in the country. The one with, I was just saying to you, we're putting that together now. So if you want to play a villain, we've actually got I think the character is, Jack and the Beanstalk would be not just the big, giant, but we've also got a baddie in that. So there's 2 characters in that, but there's also the cruise ship version of Cinderella. And we've got that going out this year as well. So there's lots going on, but yeah, tons of stuff. Come and be part of the family of British pantomimes.
I would love to. It's always been a thing that I've wanted to do, Kev, but I've never done it. And with everything,
well, do it then.
I know.
I think what you're doing is fantastic. And there's so many people out there with great stories, so many performers out there with great stories. So what you're doing is great, Sam. Keep going.
Well, thank you so much. That was a really lovely chat. And it's been lovely to catch up with you after so many years.
You too, my brother.
And I hope to see you soon. I'll come in for casting.
Absolutely. You look after yourself, my brother, and keep going. It's absolutely amazing. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Cheers, Kev. Have a good day.
You too. God bless you, Sam.
Bye-bye, mate.
Bye-bye, mate.
So there you have it. That wraps it up for this episode of DeckTales. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've been entertained by the tales of laughter, camaraderie, and the occasional stormy sea, then don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback helps us to navigate the podcasting waters and continue bringing you these fascinating stories. Before I sign off, if you'd like to share your own stories for future episodes, then I'd love to hear from you. Simply get in touch over the socials, because after all, the best stories often come from our listeners. As we navigate through the waters of life, remember to enjoy the journey as much as the destination, as well as those you choose to share the adventure with. I've been your captain, Sammy Catlin. Until next time, fair winds, smooth sailing, and may your adventures be as unforgettable as those shared here on DeckTales. Bon voyage.